trust them to spend it wisely if they're failing with what they've got already?
Yes, that's precisely why we're calling for a change in culture and a much sharper focus on performance. The new investment is needed, and so that's clear, and that's why we've allowed for a trebling of investment, so total allowances of around £88 billion over the next 5 years to bring forward new reservoirs, to improve sewage treatment works, and to reduce sewage spills. But that needs to sit alongside a change in culture of the sector so that they really do focus on what matters. And also we see much less of companies making excuses for their poor performance. And so we see companies blaming their performance on the weather, blaming it on their customers. So that needs to change. We need to see a much sharper focus on what's going wrong, on the root causes of these issues, and then a focus on fixing these issues.
You levied a similar fine, slightly smaller, but a similar process a year ago. You've had to ask for repayments that are even larger this time. What customers are going to be wondering is if anything you do makes a difference. What they really want to know is when are their gardens going to stop flooding with sewage? When is performance going to improve? Are any of these steps, why should they believe that they're making any difference to conduct?
Yeah, so we do think that fines and penalties are an important tool. We also take enforcement action against companies where they've broken the law, but we don't just stop there. We're working with companies requiring them to prepare performance improvement plans. And from that work, we can see that last year, 4 of the companies have moved out of the lagging category up into the average category, and all those companies have prepared performance improvement plans. But we're not stopping there as well. We think we need new powers and issues like executive pay, and we'll continue to use all of our powers to press the sector to do better. That's what we're going to do as a regulator. We're not going to stop holding water companies to account, and that will happen alongside this major new investment. And I think together these changes can drive much greater performance from the companies and much better outcomes for customers and the environment.
People will hear what you're saying and you're talking tough, but they haven't seen a change in behaviour over time. As a regulator, I mean, do you accept your focus for many years was on keeping prices down? They haven't risen in real terms. The last time you did a negotiation with the industry, you wanted bills to be cut across the board. Now you're accepting they have to go up. Do you accept as a regulator that the focus was in the wrong place, that performance was back in the queue behind price, and that was a mistake?
Not at all, and I think that is, again, water companies and their trade body making excuses for poor performance. The reduced bills at the last price review were from lower returns due to falling interest rates. We're now facing a very different financial market with rising interest rates alongside increased investment. The investment planning process is actually led by the Environment Agency, the Water Resource Management Planning process, and the drainage management plans. So that is a function of legal requirements. We do think there's a case for looking hard at how the system works in terms of investment planning, and the government is reviewing this, is going to review the sector. We think that's something that needs to be considered. But I wouldn't accept that as an excuse for poor performance. We're seeing companies are late in this period in spending the money that they're allowed at the last price review. So it suggests that they've got ample funding. What they need to do is put it to good use. And that's why we're focused on this performance issue that we've identified in today's announcement.
You're in the middle of this negotiation process that will lead to a final decision in December on the current timetable. And you are going to, on the current numbers, grant nearly £90 billion of spending by these water companies, the trade-off being that customer bills are going to rise more than 20%. The industry's come back and said that just simply isn't enough. We need a bigger return. We need to offer these investors a bigger return. That is the case, isn't it? It might be uncomfortable for customers to hear it, but the only way to fix the problems you're trying to address today is by allowing them to make more money for their investors, not pay back customers.
We need to see increased investment, and we're considering submissions both from water companies, investors, but also from environmental organisations and customers and customer groups. We'll consider those and make our final decisions in December. But alongside the increased investment, unless we see a change in culture and a much sharper focus on performance, I would worry that water companies will continue to let down their customers and the environment. So it is about more investment, but it's not just about more investment alone. We need to see the change in culture and performance. And we're starting to see that from some companies. So, for example, Severn Trent Water have announced that they have dedicated 300 specialist staff, and they're rolling out solutions at 900 sites over just 12 months to bring down storm overflows. And that contrasts with other companies who are planning over 5 years to take action at perhaps a couple of hundred sites. So much more rapid progress is possible. We need to see that good practice spread across the rest of the sector.
A big chunk, about a third of the repayments today is Thames Water, so much of the conversation and the biggest problem, I'm sure, amid the many on your desk, is Thames Water. We know a group of their creditors, the company's carrying more than £15 billion of debt, a group responsible, owed around £10 billion of that, are working on their own rescue plan. My conversations with them essentially boil down to this: they will take a haircut, they'll lose some money if you, as a regulator, agree a better business plan, as they would see it, something that can provide a bigger return to investors. They will bail out the company by doing their bit. Are you engaging with those investors? And are you effectively having to run two processes here? One talking to Thames's management and one talking to the creditors who ultimately will decide whether it survives?
We talk to a range of interest groups, including investors and water companies, and that includes Thames investors. But we're engaging primarily with the company on their business plan and on their turnaround plan. It's very clear that Thames need to raise new investment in their business. They also need to deliver on an ambitious turnaround plan. Both of those actions are needed. We're continuing to monitor the company and its progress in developing and executing its turnaround plan and in raising new investment. That's the responsibility of their board, and we'll continue to hold the company to account on behalf of customers.
And just very quickly, David, are you confident you can get to a position where Thames doesn't end up in special administration or toppling over, that there'll be a plan that can be agreed that will see it survive in something like its current form?
We think our final determination will provide a platform for the company to take the action it needs, but that's a question in terms of returns and investment. That's a question for their board and their investors. What we'll do is the right thing for customers, and we're very clear that we'll deliver on our duties, which are to protect customers' interests, and that's what we're focused on.
David Black, Chief Executive of Water Regulator Ofwat, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, in the last few minutes, we've had a response from Water UK, the trade association body for the water industry. This is David Henderson, their chief executive, responding to today's repayments.
Well, it's crucial that we do get that investment, because the investment is what drives the performance of the assets. Clearly, performance isn't where it should be. It has improved in 9 of the 11 areas that have been measured by the regulator since 2020, but we want to go even further, which is why the investment plans are so important. If we want good culture and good leadership, it starts with being honest, and the honest truth is investment has been constrained. We have had bills fall in real terms year after year after year. If they'd merely risen with inflation since 2010, they'd be about a fifth higher today. And the consequence of that cut in investment is that our system is not coping. It's fundamentally not able to withstand the pressures of climate change and population growth, and that is having a real effect on the environmental performance we see.
Culture change is the crux of what Ofwat says is the problem, though. So whose fault is that? Is that the regulators? Is that the water companies?
We've been very honest as an industry. We have apologised for performance not being where it should, and we have a plan. We have a plan to put it right. It's £105 billion worth of investment over the next 5 years. But it's important to understand that that investment is coming on the back of less investment than is needed. Only in 2019, Ofwat cut investment plans by £7 billion. And I'm afraid year after year after year after year of cuts does have an effect on the performance of the industry.
None of the water companies were ranked by Ofwat in the top leading category. That's a pretty bad reflection on the industry, isn't it?
The targets are getting harder and harder and harder and harder to meet each year. That's a good thing. We should be stretched. But in order to deliver and meet those commitments, we need investment. We need the funds and the resources available to be able to expand and upgrade our system, which is very old and very large and increasingly not able to withstand the pressures of climate change and population growth.
When are things going to start getting better?
Well, Performance has improved, as I said, since 2020 in 9 of the 11 areas that are measured by Ofwat. We have a plan to go even further. It's £105 billion worth of investment across the whole of England and Wales, and we are hoping to get the green light in December so we can get on with it, because we want to improve performance as fast as we can. Nobody wants performance to be as it is right now, and that is why we have a plan to put it right.
Is the truth not that the public thinks the water industry is broken, and whatever you say about the problems of the past, they just kind of don't really believe you? How are you going to get the trust back from the public?
The public is right. It isn't working. It's not working, and it hasn't for some time. It's partly not working because we have not had the investment available for the industry to deliver the upgrades to our system as we have needed. So we've had bills fall in real terms by almost 20% since 2010, and that has meant less money available to deliver the investments that we need. So if we want a strong culture, we should be honest about that.
That was David Henderson, the Chief Executive of Water UK, responding to that £157 million of repayments to customers ordered by the regulator. Now, to some of today's other business stories. Grocery price inflation rose in September, with average supermarket prices now 2% more expensive than they were a year ago. According to data from the analyst Kantar, prices are rising fastest in markets such as soft drinks, chocolate and skincare. Electronics giant Samsung has apologised and said it is in crisis following worse than expected profit guidance. The head of the company's chip division wrote to investors and employees acknowledging they had fallen behind in the AI arms race. The company's share price has fallen almost 30% over the past 6 months. Now, as the government prepares to unveil its new workers' rights reforms this week, the Science Minister, Peter Gile, has this morning launched a regulator intended to approve new technologies faster. The Regulatory Innovation Office will aim to speed up approvals in fields such as biotechnology, drone deliveries and autonomous vehicles. Well, today the Sheffield-based company Zoo Digital have released some research of their own on the effect of AI on the future of the UK workplace. We're joined now by Zoo's Digital Chief Executive, Stuart Green. Stuart, if you don't mind, we'll start with the first question. What does Zoo do?
Well, we work actually in the media and entertainment industry. We do work for big streaming companies and makers of feature films and TV series, and we do the work that's needed to get those programs onto streaming platforms and in front of audiences all around the world. And a big part of that is localization. So that's taking the words that are spoken and subtitling them and dubbing them so that they can be understood by audiences who live in different cultures and speak different languages.
OK, and how has that process changed, particularly with the advent of AI? Presumably someone was once upon a time would be transcribing. You now have a translation service at the touch of a button. Help us with that.
Okay, well, if you think about entertainment, I mean, there is such a huge spectrum of different types of content. So at the one extreme, you've got big feature films, big budget movies that have cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. At the other extreme, you've got user-generated content for YouTube that costs next to nothing to make. And of course, everything in between. So it's really a case of kind of horses for courses, really. And certainly AI is playing a very big part in the sort of in the low end of the market, as it were. We're focused primarily on the high end and working with those big media companies who are spending lots of money making great content. It's really important to them that they can deliver that content to audiences in different countries in a way that they experience something that is just as good as what an audience in the home country would have experienced. And that means it needs to be really authentic, really believable. And what we've found through the research that we've done, and as innovators in our industry, we've been looking at AI for over 10 years. We've found that it's still not reached the point where, for that end of the market, where you can use AI reliably to be able to completely create a new language experience. However, it is a great tool, and we're finding a real asset in a number of different areas in our business as a way to improve productivity, ensure that quality is always at the high standard, and also to reduce the time it takes to get products to market. Because, of course, these big companies, when they've made a new TV show or film, they want to get it in front of their audiences as quickly as possible. And condensing that timeline is a real driver in our industry. So
does your experience suggest that the concern about a decimation of jobs markets by AI is overblown? You still need people ultimately to correct the homophones.
Yes. Well, certainly at the the high end of the market where we're focused, we absolutely don't see any replacement for the fantastic talent that voice actors bring, and also the highly skilled and trained media translators bring as well. Because even creating subtitles, it seems like, well, you can use ChatGPT or Google Translate to translate your business letter. Surely you can use it for subtitles. And the answer is, well, if those subtitles are just, very factual and literal, then it's fine. But if it's very nuanced and idiomatic and, the kind of conversations that take place in scripted and unscripted content, then it just doesn't wash. So as far as we can see, those very skilled creatives that we have worked with for many, many years in our industry, their jobs are safe. At the other end of the market, clearly there will be, and indeed there are already companies that are taking advantage of AI to produce very quick to generate localized versions of YouTube videos and other such materials.
And since you've been using it, just briefly, has your headcount gone up or down?
Well, actually, one of the things that we see that AI will bring is actually an expansion of the market, because there are segments within this market that previously would have just been too expensive to produce using traditional practices, but where quality isn't the most important thing, where often cost is the driver. So there are new areas opening up, and we expect that actually we will continue to expand as a business as we grow in order to satisfy those broader market new requirements that are emerging.
Stuart Green from Zoo, thanks very much. Crystal clear, no need for subtitles at all.
Thank you.
Now, still to come on Business Live, why are leading brands spending so much money on e-commerce events like Amazon Prime Day?
I'm Stuart Ramsey, and I'm Sky's chief correspondent.
An enormous explosion that's just come down. I think it was a monster just landed in between us.
Hundreds and hundreds of people hoping to get north, ultimately to get to the United States.
It's a border where they're not welcome, yet they keep coming.
We saw snatch squads going in, grabbing people, taking them out and putting them into trucks and taking them away.
They make about 50 kilos of fentanyl a week. It's incredibly dangerous and toxic stuff.
There's been an upsurge in deaths. The fighting between the gangs is getting more and more vicious.
Is this now all your territory?
Yeah.
The battlefield is outside the barricades, which is over there.
This is much more like a normal town.
It's really sending a clear message that Venezuela is eager for change. We're being crushed.
Free from wherever you get your news. We are in the middle of a forest, in a jungle really, and they're attempting to keep these men alive. This is real, hardcore emergency medicine. The information on this could bring down the entire network, not just in Iraq and Syria, but across the world. Sky News, the full story first.
Hundreds of thousands of people have been using the beast for years to traverse Mexico, but it is really dangerous. Many people have died riding it.
Day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Traveling is not just about the destination. It's also about how you get there. Fly Emirates, fly better. Fly Emirates, fly better. Thank you.
Let's take a look at how the markets are doing this morning. The rally in Chinese markets has lost steam overnight following a lack of stimulus news from China. Still all in positive territory, though. Hong Kong's Hang Seng, the exception, closed down 9.4%, lower, its heaviest fall since the financial crisis of 2008. That news has also dragged down European markets this morning, with China-sensitive mining and luxury companies among the biggest losers. Here, the FTSE has also opened down. You can see there, down 1.12%. The leading FTSE gainer today is Imperial Brands, after announcing that shareholders will receive higher dividends in 2025. Meanwhile, European stocks heavily exposed to the Chinese economy have also tumbled. We consider Burberry, Antofagasta and Anglo American. Now, to the currencies, and the pound is largely unchanged against the dollar, up a tiny bit there, also against the euro, and the euro slightly positive against the dollar too. And finally, the oil price has come down a little, with traders more focused on China today than the Middle East. Brent crude hit $80 a barrel yesterday. It's down nearly 2% today to just under that $80 mark. Now, today marks one of the most important days in e-commerce for the biggest online retailer in the world, Amazon Prime Day. But how do commerce events like Prime Day, which is actually 2 days, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, benefit businesses, and how much do those discounts cost? Joining me now from New York is Rodney Zemmel, a senior partner at McKinsey, who've published a report on this. Rodney, thanks very much for making time for us today at Sky News. Just give us an idea of the importance of Prime Day, not just to Amazon, for whom it's obviously a big marketing event, but to the retailers who service them and ultimately sell us the products we're after.
Good morning, Paul. The short story is it's a big deal for the companies that really want to win. Our survey, we just looked at 500 different companies across e-commerce. Online sales are going to be 25% of all retail sales by next year. And if you look at the subset of companies who are winning, so those who are growing 10% or more faster than the industries that they're in, one of the things that they're doing is very heavily focusing on Prime Days and other event-based selling. For them, 2 in 5 of them, for them, it's more than 10% of their business. For the companies in that group who are the laggards, many of them are barely bothering with days like Prime Day or like Black Friday or Cyber Monday. So it matters.
For those of us who, if you are an Amazon customer, it can feel like every day is Prime Day, such as the level of marketing. If it works for the business, does it really work for them? Does it deliver genuine spikes, or is this about just maintaining the presence and importance of the world's biggest retailer in people's everyday shopping lives?
No, it delivers genuine spikes. I mean, one of the things we saw in our work is companies that are in this leader group are actually more than twice as likely to think that their e-commerce is very profitable relative to companies who are not in that group. So some companies are still sort of viewing, digital sales as a bit of a necessary evil relative to people coming in the store. If you're one of the companies who's taking advantage of Prime Day and the like, you're not in that group. You've really figured out how to monetize it. Often you're not just doing it through your own sites, you're doing it through social commerce, you're doing it through marketplaces and so on. And frankly, you're very heavily leveraging AI to find out how to maximize that profitability. In fact, in many cases, these companies have really fully rewired their business with AI. So if you take one of the most discriminating questions we found in our research was, if you ask, can you share information at all points on a customer journey, whether they come in the store, whether they interact through the website, whether they interact through your app? Companies that are able to do that and are able to do that using AI were 8 times more likely to be in that winning group that's growing faster than their markets. So there really is money to be made here. It's not just they're running faster to stand still.
Okay. Clearly great for Amazon, good for those businesses that are engaging with it and seeing the opportunity. How good a deal is it for consumers, though? Because it can feel like the must-have 24 hours only price today will pop up again quite soon. There seems to be a permanent sale somewhere. Are consumers really getting decent value from these promotions?
Yeah, I mean, look, the discounts are the discounts. So if you choose to buy in those periods, you're getting real value. Prime Day is important. The level of offers that are available tends to be a little less than it is around Thanksgiving, around Black Fridays, and Cyber Mondays. If you compare it to what we see in China around Singles Days and so on, it's relatively small. But yes, it's a good deal. It's a real deal. And I think what we're seeing is online sales are quite promotionally sensitive. When consumers take advantage of those dates, they're obviously getting deals, but companies who are figuring out how to target their offers in the right way and have really rewired their marketing with AI are able to get real advantage from them. By the way, this
Rodney
isn't just
Zemmel in New York, I'm going to have to cut you off. They'll leave you to the rest of your day. Thank you very much for joining us on Sky News. Now, if you scan the QR code on your screen now, you can read more on this story on our Money blog. I'll be back at 4:30.
This is Sky News Today with Wilfred Frost. It's 12 o'clock. Your headlines. The main suspect in the Madeleine McCann case is cleared by a German court on unrelated sex crime charges. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson tells me he thinks people wanted lockdown rules during the COVID pandemic. When you say the real question, I suppose, is why on earth the publicly so avidly craved these rules? I don't think anybody craved these rules, did they?
Well, I think that no. I think you're wrong. I think that they did.
Also today, Israel says it's killed another senior Hezbollah commander in the strikes on the Lebanese capital, Beirut. The conflict's forgotten victims. The mother of a 5-year-old killed alongside her family in Gaza tells Sky News she wants justice for her daughter. Brace for Hurricane Milton. Florida prepares for what could be the biggest evacuation since Hurricane Katrina almost 20 years ago. A very good afternoon to you. The main suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has been cleared of a number of unrelated sex charges. Christian B., as he's known under German privacy laws, had denied 3 rapes and the sex abuse of 2 young girls while he was living in the Algarve in Portugal. He does, though, remain in jail for a previous rape conviction. Our crime correspondent Martin Brunt is in Braunschweig in Germany for us. Martin, great to see you again. Update us on the developments today and what is still to come, if anything.
I think there's a lot to come, but as far as today's concerned, the judge has effectively thrown out the prosecution case. The prosecutor had labelled Christian B as a sadist and had urged the judge to find him guilty and send him to jail for 15 years. Well, the judge decided that there was not enough evidence in any of those 5 charges, 3 rape charges and 2 charges of child sex abuse. And he highlighted some of the problems in the prosecution case, he said, and he referred to one of those rape charges, the rape of Hazel Bean, the Irish holiday worker who was raped